It is day 268 of the second Trump administration. At midnight, the government shutdown will officially hit the 2-week mark. Today, the Senate failed to pass a clean spending bill for the 8th time. Reminder, the House isn't even meeting again until next week. And tonight, Democrats met in person to discuss their strategy going forward. As for Republicans and their strategy, here's what Speaker Mike Johnson said earlier.
At what point, for the good of the country, do you need to change your strategy to negotiate a deal with Democrats?
It's a great question. Manu asks, why don't I change my strategy? I don't have any strategy. We're not playing games. They're playing a game. We're not. The strategy is to do the right and obvious thing and keep the government moving for the people.
The White House says it will keep firing workers as the shutdown drags on. They have already fired thousands, including gutting the department that runs special education programs for American families. Today, Trump talked about the next steps. Watch this.
We're closing up programs that are Democrat programs that we were opposed to. So we're being, and they're never going to come back in many cases. We're going to have a list of them on Friday, closing up some of the most egregious, socialist, semi-communist, probably not full communist, we're saving that for New York, but semi-communist programs. And we're closing them up. We're not closing up Republican programs because we think they work.
But the cuts so far are not just affecting Democrats' priorities. As CNBC points out, many of the programs that were cut had wide bipartisan support. Meanwhile, the president hosted Argentina's president, Javier Milei, at the White House earlier today. Trump, of course, is a big supporter of him, and the administration has agreed to give the country a $20 billion bailout. But today, Trump made it clear, with a big election coming up in Argentina, things could be different. Watch these details.
If the president doesn't win, I know the person that he'd be running against, I believe, probably. We probably have the person. A person is extremely far left and a philosophy that got Argentina into this problem in the first place. So we would not be generous with Argentina if that happened. If he loses, we are not going to be generous with Argentina.
And as we've spoken about on this show, there are some major U.S. hedge funds that stand to benefit if our government bails out Argentina because they are heavily invested in that country. Meanwhile, many American farmers are wildly against the deal because China is now buying its soybeans from farmers in Argentina instead of the U.S. Do you know why? The trade war. Now let's get smarter with help of our lead-off panel this evening. Peter Baker joins us, Chief White House Correspondent for The New York Times. Leanne Caldwell, Chief Washington Correspondent for Puck, and Sam Stein, Managing Editor for The Bulwark and an MSNBC political contributor. Leanne, let's start with you. Democrats met to talk strategy tonight. Speaker Johnson says he has no strategy because there's nothing he can do. Tell us where things stand.
Things are in the exact same place that they have been for the past 2 weeks, Steph. There is absolutely no movement between either party. Both parties individually, respectively, feel very confident in their positions. You know, I spent today talking to Democrats on Capitol Hill, asking if these firings of government workers, the focusing of ending Democratic programs or targeting Democratic states and cities by the administration during the shutdown was going to weaken their resolve. And they are saying absolutely not, that it's only made it stronger, that they're hearing from their constituents to stay strong and to continue. Meanwhile, Republicans are also feeling quite united. I'm having Republicans tell me that the party hasn't been this united in a very, very long time. And so ultimately, when both sides are completely comfortable in their respective positions, that leaves very little room for any sort of negotiation, compromise, or opening. And that's why everyone is saying that the shutdown is going to last a very long time, because no one right now is willing to move, and both sides think that they are completely right, Steph.
So Republicans are united, Democrats are united. Is that why there seems like there's no urgency here, Peter?
Yeah, I mean, look, both sides are playing to their base, right? Neither side is playing to the middle. Neither side is worried about independence. Neither side is worried about the other side, that's for sure. Polls show that Americans don't really think this is a good idea on either side of the aisle. But of course, there's a core constituency on the left that wants Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate to fight against Trump, that thinks that they have been way too weak over the course of the last 8 months, that felt like Schumer gave in during the last time we went through this kind of a spending showdown. And on the right, there's just as much feeling on the core MAGA base that they should hold out and not give in, particularly, in terms of Trump. Trump doesn't like the idea of being seen as a loser. Now, doesn't mean he won't make a deal. Trump does like to pivot and sometimes will. But for the moment, anyway, he's been focused on the Middle East. He's been focused on Argentina. He's been focused on retribution against his enemies. He hasn't really been focused on the shutdown. And therefore, he's left it to congressional leaders to kind of take the lead. And their view right now is as Leanne said, is that they don't need to make a deal because they're playing to the core constituency.
Sam, major airports around the country are now refusing to show a new video from Kristi Noem where she blames Democrats for the shutdown, and they say the video is blatantly political, so they will not show it. Where's the Hatch Act? Why is a video like this even being produced, and why are airports being asked to show it? None of these airports want to get involved in politics. Shouldn't the Hatch Act prevent this from even happening to begin with?
A very quaint point, but it's true. The Hatch Act does prevent this stuff. It should. It is the law. But we've long passed the point where the Hatch Act had any teeth, especially with this administration. It's not just Kristi Noem and these videos that they're trying to show at various airports. Various government agencies have sent out emails or posted things on their websites explicitly blaming Democrats for this shutdown. From the podium, Trump administration officials have gone after Democrats, both for the shutdown, but also for general political matters. The Hatch Act is sort of a thing of the past. And look, if this is intended to browbeat Democrats into saying, we give up, uncle, please stop, we will agree to end the shutdown, it's not having that effect. If anything, it's having the opposite effect. Democrats feel like they can't negotiate or give in during this. It's one of the things that comes up repeatedly is that these cuts that they're making to the federal workforce, the programs that they're slashing unilaterally, this open defiance of the Hatch Act and blaming them for the shutdown are conditions that are unacceptable to them. And so I don't think it's going to get us anywhere closer to a deal. It might make the administration feel good. It might win some points with the public. But frankly, it doesn't actually get us anywhere close to a resolution.
All right, Peter, let's talk Argentina. It is pretty unusual for any president to comment aggressively on another country's election. The president is very clearly saying that billions of dollars in aid is depending on whether or not the Argentine election goes the way he wants it. What is going on here?
Yeah, it's strikingly over. You're right. Look, presidents have a stake in foreign elections and from time to time kind of put their thumb on the scale a little bit, but it's usually more subtle. It's usually a little bit more, with a little bit more grace. This is blatant, brazen, undisguised, unsubtle. He's basically saying, I'm holding you hostage. If you want to get the billions of dollars of American money, you have to vote the way I want you to vote. Now, we'll see whether that has an impact on the election. It's hard to say, but it's about as open as I've ever seen it. I think that it goes to show that Trump, of course, as we have said so many times before, doesn't abide by the norms that his predecessors at least pretended to respect, even if they didn't necessarily all the time.
But forget Trump's predecessors. Sam, how is this Argentinian bailout a political win for Trump? Right? It could. Listen, we don't want any other country to be have political instability. We don't want their currency to fail. But in this case, sure, we've got our government shut down. The whole mindset, the whole mantra of the Trump administration is America first. Foreign aid is not our jam. The one group of Americans that seems like they're going to benefit financially is a group of hedge funds. How does any of this fit in the America first strategy? It
doesn't. It really plainly doesn't.
So how do Republicans feel about this? How do Republican voters?
Well, I don't know if it resonates necessarily with Republican voters. It is both a foreign policy issue, a monetary issue, in the weeds a little bit. But it's pretty obvious that there's some vulnerabilities that come with it, right? All you have to do if you're a Democrat is say, at the same time Donald Trump is cutting billions in dollars for energy and electrical costs or projects in your district, he's sending $20 billion to Argentina to bail out his friend there. And the other thing that I think is worth remembering is that Milei is not some, obscure figure necessarily for the American or for the American public. He showed up in America handing a chainsaw to Elon Musk, cheering him on as Elon Musk and Doge went about cutting our social safety net programs, our government programs, reducing the government. And the idea was, look, cut. Don't worry about the consequences. Everything will be great, gravy. And then he turns around and says, you know what? I actually need $20 billion in a bailout. This is not a political winner. I don't know if it's the most important or pertinent issue for voters, but it's easy fodder for Democrats if they want to take it.
Okay, that's what Democrats should say. Leanne, what are Republicans saying? Republicans in red states that represent soybean farmers, right? We talk about people living in news deserts. They might be unaware of the Argentina situation. Soybean farmers are well aware. They know that all the soybeans that they like to sell to China are now zero, and China is going directly to Argentina. What are those lawmakers in those states, Republican lawmakers, saying to those farmers who are up in arms?
Yeah, so the farmer constituency has been something that's really interesting to watch, and the lawmakers that represent them. The lawmakers who represent them are not really willing to speak out super strongly against the president. They are trying to back channel with the White House, with the administration, and try to make things right. Now, the president has said that he's readying about $10 billion of aid for farmers. Remember, in Trump's first term, when he imposed tariffs as well, farmers got a couple rounds of billions of dollars, at least $20 billion worth of bailout during the first Trump administration. And so it looks like history is going to repeat itself. Republican lawmakers say farmers do not like to get bailed out. They would rather sell their crops. They would rather do the work. But ultimately, this is what it comes down to. And Trump has said that farmers are his constituents, so he's willing to help them. But Republicans say that the farmers aren't happy, but Republicans are very unwilling to speak out very loudly against this stuff.
Farmers aren't just his constituents. All Americans are. And speaking of Trump using money as a threat while commenting on an election, I do want to share a little bit about what he said earlier today about the possibility that Zohran Mamdani could win the New York City mayor's race. Watch this.
The funding for New York and for every place comes through the White House. And I'm very generous, and I was always very generous with New York, even when you had opposition there, but I was always very generous. But I wouldn't be generous to a communist, a guy that's going to take the money and throw it out the window. We're not going to let somebody get into office and squander the taxpayer money from this country. We're not going to let it happen.
Sam, your reaction?
Well, two things here. Three things. Let me clarify. One, he doesn't have the legal authority to do this. I mean, the courts have rebuffed him time and again. This is not some like piggy bank that he could just say, I'm going to not spend it on New York. I'm going to spend it elsewhere. He'll try, but he'll be legally challenged. Two, to the earlier point, I mean, if you ever needed a campaign ad, you could just say Donald Trump is more interested in helping Buenos Aires than the Bronx, period. But three is, this gets back to the government shutdown fight in fairly important ways. If you're a Democrat and you're trying to craft a bill to reopen the government with Republicans, and you know that they need your votes, at least 6 or 7 in the Senate, to get that over the finish line, how in good conscience can you say, yeah, you can have my vote, knowing fully well that Donald Trump will not respect that deal, that Russ Vought will say, you know what, we're going to send a rescissions package up to the Hill that can only pass with 50 votes, and we won't spend a bunch of this money. This is a big problem. It's not the main problem, but this is a big problem for Democrats, and even Republicans are beginning to realize it. A bunch of Republican appropriators have said, yeah, we understand why Democrats might not want to cut a deal, because frankly, if we were in their place, we would be pissed off if rescissions were happening too. And so I think when Trump says this stuff, he just muddies the water and he makes it a lot harder for any consensus to be reached on spending.